Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Dachayani Nidise Sasindhavati Krishchati Dasatani Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So here we are today at my least favorite workshop, because I fear whatever I say will land on deaf ears. Because being able to get along is extremely difficult, and I don't know if 2 hours is enough, if 2 weeks is enough, if 2 years is enough. Now, my next question is, do we want to direct this workshop towards couples or communities or both? What was the idea? Yeah. Well, I think the place that we should start is with the statement that's so beautiful and so funny and so true. In every bad relationship you ever had in your life, you were there. Should I say that? Just in case you didn't notice, which unfortunately some of us don't notice we were there. Right? And so sometimes I ask myself the question, okay, this relationship which isn't working well, if the same thing happened, the same treatment happened to another person, would it actually work well? Would another person be able to handle it better? It's a beautiful question to ask, because it makes you think, how else could I have dealt with it? And it doesn't mean necessarily that the person didn't do something wrong, didn't do something bad, didn't do something upsetting, but the question we're asking ourselves is, could have I responded to it in a better way? Could have I responded to it in a way that created more harmony than disharmony, that created more friendship than enmity? And that's an important question. And because the question, we're asking ourselves, what could I have done to make this better? And I think in every situation, even if the person is 100% at fault, still we could have done something to make it better. That's where we have to start with. And I'll tell a story. It's a funny story. It's a story in the Jewish religion, a rabbi needed some money to build something. They have a place where they do kind of like a baptism in water, and he needed to build one. And a man came to him and said, I would like you to bless me so my wife would die. My wife will die because my wife is driving me crazy. So the rabbi knew something wrong with the man, and he wanted to use it to his advantage to get this man to build this bathing place, but the man didn't know what the rabbi was up to. So the rabbi sent his secretary to see the wife, and he found out that the reason the wife was giving him so much trouble is because he was severely mistreating her. He wouldn't give her any money. She had basically nothing. And she was so upset with him that her whole like intention of life now was just to get back at him and make his life miserable, because he was making her life miserable. He didn't understand this. And so because she was making him so miserable, he wanted to kill her. And he said, is there like any verse in the Bible that allows this? And the rabbi played along with it. He said, yeah. He said, I can arrange this. He said, if you make a vow and break it, your wife will die. So he said, make a vow to build this bathing god. Like, you'll give the money, make a vow. But break the vow, and then your wife will die. You follow me so far? So he gets the man to make a vow, I will build this god. And then he says, wait a minute, but I'm not going to build it, and so how will God know? How long is it going to take? How will God know? Because I can't live with my wife any longer. He said, well, take the vow like this. I will build you this God. And then under your breath say, but I don't really intend to. So that will assure that your wife will die. So he's making this all up. There's no verse in the Bible like this. And then he's leaving, and he says, okay, I've made the vow, and I've also told God I wasn't going to keep the vow, so now my wife's going to die. How long will it take? The rabbi said, 2 weeks. She'll die in 2 weeks. He said, thank you, Rabbi. This will be a great relief. And then he's, just when he's leaving, the rabbi says, she only has 2 weeks left to live, so why don't you just treat her nice for the last 2 weeks of her life? Just like treat her like a princess and take her out, go on vacation, buy her whatever she wants like that. Just be like super nice. He said, well, yeah, I could do that for 2 weeks. After all, it's her last 2 weeks. She might as well have a good 2 weeks before she dies. So he wines and dines her, buys her whatever she wants. He's like super sweet, loving, affectionate. And then he comes back to the rabbi and he said, I'm in big anxiety. And the rabbi said, why? He said, my wife is the nicest person I've ever, she's like so sweet and kind and generous and loving. I don't want her to die. The rabbi says, well, if you build the bathing god, you're breaking your promise, and she won't die. So the rabbi saved the marriage and got his bathing god built. So, that's what it's like to be Jewish. I think Sindhis also have the counterparts of the Jews. So, so I think this is important. In my own life, I often reflect on relationships that I have and how people might trigger certain things in me, and I ask myself, if another person were dealing with this person, sometimes even my wife, would it be better? How would it be better? Could it be better? It's an important question. What could I do to make it better? You can always do something. Maybe you can't do something to make it perfect. You can always do something to make it better. And sometimes just doing something to make it better is to do nothing rather than become angry, right? Or speak ill of them, speak behind their back and so forth. So, I think we need to start with there in relationships. How can I better deal with this? Now, recently my wife gave a talk on relationships, and she was asked by women, it's very disappointing that my husband, he doesn't understand what I need. And my wife said that it's normal that he doesn't understand, unless he has mystic power and can read your mind, which most men don't. Maybe 2% can understand what their wives need. The other 98% have to be told. So it's just a fact. So part of having a good relationship is to tell your partner what you need. Like, this is what I need. This is what I don't. This is when you do this, and it's very encouraging. When you do this, it's discouraging. I have these needs. How can we fulfill them? So that's also part of a good relationship. Otherwise, we have all this pent-up anger or ill feelings. So it's part of communication. So good relationships require communication. And I'm going to tell you something. This is so interesting. This has been studied, and this is applicable to any relationship, business or personal or marriage. The way you start a conversation is the way the conversation will end. So let's say this is a conversation, Oh, Nilambar, you're amazing, and I love everything you're doing, and I'm so happy to be here, and things are going so well, and just one thing I wanted to talk about. Would it be possible that you could consider maybe doing this instead of that? What do you think he's going to do? He's going to go, sure, okay, because the conversation started like this. The conversation, Nilambar, you know, I know you're trying, but you're really stupid. You're not as advanced as you think. And, you know, I really should chastise you with a hammer on your head, but I'll just tell you, you know, it's going down. So it's, wherever the conversation starts, that's where it ends. There's nothing you can do to bring it back up. So if you're trying to communicate with someone and you start negatively, forget it. The more you talk, the worse it gets. It just keeps going down. Because they're already angry and upset. So when you want to express a need, you don't put the person down, you just express what you need. You know, I need this. If you think it's possible, we could do it this way, because when it's done that way, I'm not able to handle it, or whatever. There was nothing about the person at all. It was only about your own need. So the person's not defensive, and the person's listening. Well, hopefully listening. Isn't that interesting? How you start is how it's going to end. And obviously, if you're upset, it's going to start negative, and you'll just be more upset, right, by the end of the conversation. Now, I can tell you a lot of other things that you may not know. I mean, when I tell them to you, you'll say, okay, that makes sense. I'll tell you a few more, and I want to take it to a different level. I want to discuss why some of these mistakes are being made by devotees, because one would think, at least logically, that as devotees we wouldn't make these mistakes, but we do, and I want to discuss that. There are several major causes to disruptive relationships. One of, you know, in addition to what we've just discussed, the main predictors of bad relationships are criticism and shaming, and lack of ability to listen and discuss. So if we had a scorecard in your relationship, and we were scoring it, you know, positive points and negative points, pretty much we would score every criticism, which is not, sometimes criticism can be discussed in a healthy way. It's like, we need to discuss, you know, when you do this, that I can't deal with it. It's not really criticism. It can be discussed, and so it will have a positive outcome. But if it's just basic common criticism, you get negative points in your relationship. And if it's appreciation, thank you for doing this, I really appreciate it. You know, sometimes my wife would do it. You know, do it with my daughter also. It's good, you know. Just acknowledging, oh, you know, you did this, you work hard, thank you, you're providing, thank you. For the husband, you know, house is clean, thank you for keeping it clean, prasadam is good, etc. You get pluses in a relationship, and it's a good scorecard. Here's the bad news. To neutralize one negative comment, you have to, I don't know if you know this, this is the math. To neutralize the damage one negative comment does, you require 5 positive comments to get to 0. Did you know that? If I say, Nilambar, well, if I were married to Nilambar, which I'm not, but someone else is, so I'm not saying you would say this, but if you did, you say, Nilambar, you always say you're going to be home at 6 and you come home at 7. If you're going to come home at 7, just tell me. You know, that's not so bad. But then if she says, what's wrong with you? You know, like, why can't you keep time? You know, you've been out of India for like 12 years. So like, you should be able, you know, it's like, so she's making you feel like something's wrong with you, right? That is going to take 5 appreciations to neutralize, to get to 0. If you did 5 appreciations without that, you're pretty rich, right? It's just a reality. It's been studied. It's just how it is. So now look at a relationship where there's a lot of negativity, criticism. What's happening to that relationship? It's being slowly destroyed. There is a man who, by just engaging couples in situations and getting them to talk about certain things and seeing how they talk and work it out, can predict with 92 or 3% accuracy the future of that marriage. In other words, if they're going to stay together or not, just by how they resolve the problem. Based on this, criticism, shaming, the ability to listen to one another, and one more, which I can't remember. Somehow that wasn't important in my mind. But he would study couples, and he was 92% means over 9 out of 10 predictions came out true, just based on this. What do you think of that? Right? Now, I think it's obvious, isn't it? That's not a good relationship, right? But what I think is most important is that what that person is doing actually, in most cases, has very little to do with the criticism. Because there's a million things to criticize in anybody, for sure. Right? And whether we do it or not, that's another thing. And so criticism also often stems from our own frustration. And although I never read this in a book, it seems obvious to me that criticism is a way of expressing a need in a dysfunctional way. It's like instead of just saying, I really need this, or I need you to do that, you express it like, why don't you ever do this? What's wrong with you? This is driving me crazy. You're trying to express a need in an unhealthy way. And also, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, if, that's what they say on, what's that airlines in India? Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys. And they make their announcements. Maybe all of the airlines in India, it's domestic airlines. Also, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys. Well, do we have any boys here? Ladies and gentlemen and boys.
One boy.
Big boys. If you find your partner complaining about anything or complaining about you, then your gut response is to complain, isn't it? Yeah, or defend yourself. Isn't it kind of natural? Human nature. Who likes to be complained about? Raise your hand. If you like it when people complain about you. Because if you like it, front, then you get an unhealthy response. So somebody's complaining. Natural gut response is defense, attack, shut down. Sometimes we just shut down. Men will do that. Just like sometimes it's so obvious. Like, what? Like you're always coming late means I miss you. But you might take it like I'm busy at work. What do you expect? I'm providing for the house, and I have to do this. You should understand that. And maybe it's true. She should. But you have to, if you want to be expert, you need to hear the message behind it. And when we don't hear the message behind it, then we attack back. Have you ever attacked back? So one partner is saying one thing, and the other partner says, you do it also. Why? It's like negative. Withdrawal from the bank account, marriage is getting worse. What is divorce? It's simply there's no money left in the bank. There's nothing. The relationship is gone. You're bankrupt because of all the negativity. What is a good marriage? It's full of positivity. It's very wealthy. It's very rich. Right? Now let's say, let's say you have personal issues, and you're really a defensive person, or you just can't, you don't like people suggesting, your husband says you should do it this way, your wife says you should do that, and you just don't like it when people tell you how to do it. I'll figure it out myself. But in relationships, that can be a disaster if you don't listen. So a lot of the work we have to do in relationships is not work in trying to change the other person, which usually we can't do anyway. I mean, we can talk and try to work things out as best we can. But most of the work is our own work. So when my wife or husband says this, can I see a really, really funny video? It's about a device, a fictitious device. It's called a manslater, which means a translator from when women say something actually means. Have you seen that video? A lot of men wouldn't understand that. But that's what's required in relationships, is translating, being sensitive to what the other person is expressing. It's not just the husband. Like in ISKCON, both parties, extremely important. So when somebody's upset at you, if you take offense and you fight back, withdrawal. Just, you need 5 I'm sorry's. I'll take you out, buy you a diamond ring, like that. I have another funny one for men. This is one of the funniest things you'll ever hear. Are you ready for it? Yes. It's the point-keeping system that women have. Like every time you do something nice, you get a point. So if you buy 12 roses, you get 1 point, not 12 points. If you buy 1 rose every day for 12 days, you get 12 points. Honey, I bought you a flower today. Oh, thank you. And every day. So don't buy 12 roses at once, buy 1 a day. And here's where the men go, who have no idea how this works, and this does not make sense. So, it's like your birthday and your husband wants to surprise you with, you wouldn't expect it. And he buys you a new car, and look what I bought you. Come in the garage, and it's like a brand new car. That's 1 point. He thinks that's like 10,000 points. I'm good for the next 3.5 years on that 1 car. But in her mind, maybe it's 5 to 10 points. It's not 10,000 points, but in his mind, that's like, that was expensive. If you add up all the roses, that's like definitely 5 years of roses. For her, it's like, and sometimes it's even worse, because she'll think, oh yeah, you're just trying to buy me off, so you can just, be alone for the next 5 years and not bother with me. So, it requires, every relationship requires sensitivity to how the other person thinks and feels. And one huge problem is that we like people to think and feel the way we do, and when they don't, we're like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you think and feel like I do? Why do you react this way? And it's very difficult often to accept people who process things differently than we do. It often doesn't make sense. It's like, well, yeah, you're upset about something. Well, why would you be upset about that? I've never been upset about that my whole life. I don't understand how anyone could be upset about it. You ever have that experience? Okay, I don't want to make you admit anything because your wife's next to you. So silence means yes. He didn't say no. So every man and every woman has that experience. Have you ever said, I don't understand how so-and-so could do this, or I don't understand how so-and-so could believe this, or I don't understand how so-and-so could say this? Have you ever said that? I can't figure out how anybody... I've said that constantly when I went to India in 1975. That was the only thing I said. why do they do it like this? I don't understand. Why do they do it like that? It's like, it's totally different than America. It was funny, you go buy something and you'd have to, go to pay. You'd get a little receipt, a chit, and you'd have to pay this guy, and the Kadi Bhavan, the government started, like, why? It's like, I don't understand. Because we don't do it like that in America. So, it's a little better now, of course. Modernized. But this is a very interesting statement I want to bring to your attention. When you say, I don't understand, that's a very bad statement. You know why? When I say I don't understand, it's kind of an admittance that I'm guilty of not being empathetic enough to understand why someone else would do that. Right? Like today, we ate at Maharaj Prataparudra's house, and Sundararaja's house. And they had to cook without chili. And I'm sure when they got that recipe of chili, they thought, I can't understand why anybody would like how you could eat something without chili. Are you thinking one thing? It's like, that is so bland. Why would you want to do that? Right? Isn't it? I have a funny thing. I have learned that by living in India, by eating at the homes of Indians, I have learned something about the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do to you. Completely bogus. Because when you go to someone's house, they will cook what they like, and they will assume you like it, right? And I'm like, so I take the subject normal. It's not maybe so much in the West, but in India I take the subject. Anything else you need? I go, yeah, a fire extinguisher. Prabhu, it's hot? I made it very mild. For you, it was mild. So, I'm just following the golden rule. I'm doing for you what I like for myself. That's a problem. I don't understand. I can't understand. That's a big red flag when you say that. Rather, if you say that, the response in your mind should be, I need to learn to understand. This person doesn't think like me. They don't respond like me. Just like Nilambar is more Pita and Pita Kappa, and I'm more Vata, as you can tell, right? It's like you're looking at me and go, aren't you hot? You got a jacket. It's a thick jacket, you got a cap on, socks. I'm not hot at all. You don't touch my feet, but if you did, they're ice cold right now. It's just the body, right? So, and you're thinking, well, this is like, and Jai Shri's thinking, this is beautiful weather, I love it. Can't wait for it to get colder. It's my favorite part of the year. I'm like, you're crazy. Take me, like anything under 30, I'm freezing, So, at my house, in the winter, or in the summer, my wife's always turning the AC lower, and I'm always turning it higher because she likes it cold. In the winter, I'm always turning it hotter. She's turning it colder. She's so warm in here. It's so freezing in here. So to be able to stop saying, I always can give you a point. So every time you say, I just don't understand, a red flag should go off in your mind. Because to have good relationships, it's so important to understand. Yes?
I actually don't understand sometimes. Not because I don't want to, but I just don't understand.
That's not good. So then ask yourself the question. Well, sometimes you don't have to understand, but you only have to understand that that's how they feel and acknowledge and accept it. So you don't have to understand why they feel it as much as... if you can understand, it's better, but at least understand that it's a valid it's valid for that person. Of course, a lot of things are difficult to understand because men and women are different. So, you know, one of the it's this funny video. Maybe you've seen it. This lady has a nail in her head, but she doesn't know it. How many have seen that video? Yeah, it's so funny. It's not about the nail. I think that's the name of it. You have to see this, but I'll tell you just what it's like. It's said that often when a woman tells you her problems, she's not telling you her problems for you to solve them. She just wants to talk about it. Right? Just get it off her chest. Just needs to talk about it. Sometimes that's all she needs. Generally for men are solution oriented. So it's like men thinks, why would you talk about something just to talk about it? Right? It doesn't make sense. So that's just a difference between male neurology or male nature and female nature. Although I'm sure some women are problem solving oriented and some men want to talk, but it's just a general idea. So maybe Nilambar, you'd say, it doesn't make sense to me. You'd want to talk about something and not have a solution. And then I would say, well, it doesn't have to make sense to you. Just accept it, that that's how they do it, even if you don't understand it. Maybe someday you'll understand it. So anyway, so this video starts where this woman is saying to her husband or boyfriend, you know, I have this pain in my forehead, and it's just like it's throbbing, and he's been taught to listen, you know, just like he's taught. His wife wants him to listen and not say anything, and then you just see her like mouth talking. Then all of a sudden you see she's got a nail stuck in her forehead, and he says. He's trying to be nice, and so she's saying, I have this pain in my head, and it gets worse when I put sweaters on. It feels like it's nagging, and he's saying, he's trying to be nice. He's saying, you know, I bet if you just take the nail, and she cuts him off and says, stop trying to solve a problem and just listen to me. Yeah, so he's trying to listen. It's just throbbing pain. And sometimes at night I can't. And he's got to listen while she's got a nail in her head. He's practicing there, right? And then sometimes, and then she goes, and sometimes it's so painful. And she goes like that. And goes, ah! And he's like, he can't control himself. Just take the nail, you know, like that. And then it ends like that. Just to show how different men and women are. And how difficult it can be to understand, and it can understand, just have to understand that that's just how it is, even if you don't understand, because the natures are different. But then you learn, like my joke is, well, after you've been married about 20 years, you'll figure it out, because it's total hell if you don't. And so, you know, men are like stubborn, they want it their way. But after 20 years of suffering and always losing every argument, it finally dawns on them that maybe I just need to understand what I don't understand. And then their life gets easy. They spend more money, but their life gets easy. So this is something that comes up in life everywhere. I just don't understand. There's another thing that I've discovered also, which is difficult, the I don't understand. Some people are extremely sensitive to past experiences, you know. I was in an auto accident, and I'd say for 2 years, the van crashed while I was sleeping. I could never sleep in a van while it was moving. It was impossible. That's, you know, just because of that experience. So life's like that. Sometimes you're reacting because of past experience. And so someone could be really sensitive, and you're like, why are you so sensitive? Why does this bother you? That's not the right question. It's just like, it bothers you, so I have to deal with it. It's just a reality. And a lot of young men, when they're married, or women, will try to fight it. And they'll lose every time. Even Shastra says don't argue with a woman. You know, Mata Samhita, where the husband and wife get along, Lakshmi resides. So there's an impetus for men to be nice to their wives. You'll make more money that way. But when you argue, Lakshmi leaves. So we have this joke. It's kind of a joke. You'll never win a fight with a woman, so don't try. And this lawyer had an ad in America, a picture of a female lawyer, and it said, "Did you ever win a fight with a woman?" You know, so she'll win every case because women always win, right? So this is our part in the relationship. We try to understand, even though we can't understand, and this is true of husbands, wives, everybody. If you're dealing with people in any situation, some people will react differently because of who they are, their nature, their samskars, their personality, their past activities. And some things will be very upsetting for people that normally wouldn't be upsetting for others. And so the male side, maybe even women sometimes, wants to say, "Why are you so upset? There's nothing wrong." That's, again, I don't understand. You know? Or same thing with women, when they see how men act, that they act in ways that women don't, and it's sometimes difficult to understand. We have this funny scenario, like a man comes home from work and he's just like fried, and he just sits down, and the wife says, "What's wrong?" He goes, "A bad day at work." And for her, if she has a bad day at work, she wants to talk about it. For him, he just wants to be alone. So, "You want to talk about it?" And he says, "No." And he's like, "Why don't you want to talk about it?" I just don't need to. I just want to be alone. So a man being alone is like a woman talking. He processes it just by being alone, and he just wants to like go on the internet or watch the news or something. And then 20 minutes later, he's okay. She needs to talk about it. So she has the same problem with him. It's like, that doesn't make any sense to her because she needs to talk about it. So it's a matter of, okay, that's what he needs. All right, doesn't make sense to me, but once I understand it, I respect it. And that's sometimes hard, right? Because we want the whole world to be like we are, isn't it? So, so my wife is a certain way, or your husband's a certain way, which is not the way you are, and you don't like it, and you don't understand it, and what do? You try to understand it. If you don't understand it, at least accept it, that that's what she needs. It doesn't make sense to you. You're not going to change that. You're just going to make it worse by saying, you shouldn't be this way, or you shouldn't feel this way. That doesn't work. You can't tell people not to feel a certain way. I mean, you can a little bit, but generally you can't. It doesn't work. So that's work we have to do. And if we don't do that work, then we'll tend to criticize people for being who they are. And that starts to degrade the relationship. When the relationship is on its way out at high speed, in other words, it doesn't have much more duration of time, it's destructing very quickly. It's when shaming comes in. So shaming is like criticism taken up another notch. And this is all statistically shown to be pretty much the most destructive part of a relationship. And it destroys it very quickly when there's shaming. So, yes?
How does shaming look in a wife and husband relationship?
Have you heard the word, what's the word they use? Ghost?
Ghosting.
Ghosting, is that the word? Ghosting. Comes from a movie, actually. But ghosting makes you feel like you don't know anything. Like, I know everything, you don't know anything. And shaming is like ghosting, but shaming makes you feel like an idiot.
Oh, isn't that gaslighting?
That's what I meant. Yeah, gaslighting, not gaslighting. Yeah. So, let's say, Benarati, you told me, you invited me to your house, you told me lunch would be at 1 and it's at 1:30. So shaming would be like character assassination. Like, don't you have a brain? I told you 1 o'clock. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I'm just like putting you down as a person because of something you did. That's shaming. So you always do this. You're such an idiot. Like, why? What is wrong with you? Why can't you get this together? That's shame. So that's criticism taken up to the next level. So that increases the destructive nature of the relationship. Like that and so sometimes you get a relationship and basically that's all it is criticism and shaming. And so it's just a matter of time before it's finished. You get a relationship where people are sensitive to one another, they'll never do that. They'll say things like, let's say we're me and you. I'd say, I'm really sorry, but I have to leave at 2, so I'm just going to have to leave quickly because I thought we're going to start at 1. You go, I'm sorry, this and that. You go, no problem. It's just so you know, I have to leave. And for next time, like if we do 1, it's I have a schedule. You're like, okay, that's different. So, or with your husband. But in a relationship which is supposed to be based on affection and respect, shaming is everything but affection and respect. It's the antithesis of it. So you can't have a relationship like that. And so that's when we run into this problem of the male-dominated, the male is always right, the woman is always wrong. There can be a lot of shaming in that kind of relationship. And I think we should talk about it a little bit because it's similar to guru and disciple relationship. The guru is given lots of power. But also in Shastra, it gives the disciple the right to reject a guru who misuses that power. So if the guru deviates from his principles, the disciple can reject him. Bali Maharaj rejected Sukracharya, and there are other Shastric injunctions that allow a disciple who is whose guru has become unqualified to reject them. So if we say, the woman should just do whatever, then the man can become abusive or shame the wife, and it destroys the relationship. And he doesn't feel the need that he has to be a good husband because he's got the right to just do whatever he wants. But that's not true, and it's not true of a guru or any leader. They don't have a right to do whatever they want. They have an obligation to live according to principles. So I think this is all obvious, isn't it? Like a relationship can't work this way. And then you want to develop relationships where you can express yourself and you express your needs in a way that your partner will understand them, even if they don't agree with them. They're just, okay, this is what you need. All I can say from experience is don't fight people's needs. It's like, they may not be your needs, but you have other needs that she doesn't have, but you all have needs. And when my wife was beginning her study of marriage counseling, she sat me down and said, what are your needs? Tell me your needs. And I said, why do you want to know? She said, because in a good marriage, we should know the needs of one another and we should fulfill them. And if you don't tell me your needs, I don't know what they are. I said, okay. That's the best thing I heard from you in a long time. Okay, here they are. I wouldn't say my needs are for you to be this way and that way. I would just express my own needs. Like men need a little privacy. That's their nature. They're more independent than women. Women need more. They thrive more in connection and relationship. So that would be more. Generally, a woman would express that I need more time. Man would express I need more time alone. maybe. Right? It's just nature, right? I need, the woman might say, I need, to hear from you that you appreciate me, you love me. And she'll ask you, don't you need me to tell you you love me? And you'll say, no, just tell me you respect me. That's more important for a man. Like, you don't have to say you love me, just give me respect. That's the male ego. Okay, now we know. Right? Now we know what the other person needs. So when you know what the other person needs, you know their sensitivities, you know how to create a healthy relationship, then you go for it. You do your part, even if they don't do theirs, you do yours. That's important. Because the tendency will always be, I'll do my part if they do their part. Right? It's easier, right, if they do their part. But a lot of times, when you do your part, like in that story, they'll do their part to reciprocate. Not always, but anyway, you don't have control of another person. Now, I've also read in groups, the same thing is true. Sensitivity to other people's needs and feelings is what constitutes a healthy member of the group. And opposed to a healthy member of the group is a member who is thinking about their own needs only. They're part of the group. They're using that group to fulfill their own ambitions. They want position. They want everybody to follow through on their plans. They're not happy when other plans go through. They start acting like kids. They have tantrums when people don't agree with them. And I work with groups, and I find if I don't agree, but I can express what the other person is thinking, and I understand that it's like the best thing I can do, to acknowledge. I know this is how they feel, and I know exactly why they feel this way. I just did that today. I expressed a view of a devotee, a certain group of devotees, which is not a view that I accept or support, but I understand why they feel the way they do. I understand what they feel, and I expressed it. And they said, yes, that's exactly right. This is how we feel. I didn't say I agree or disagree, just expressed it. It's extremely important in any kind of group. And someone who can't do that, it's a big red flag. Someone who says, I don't understand why you would make this decision, big red flag. Someone who says, so you think this, that, and that's why you made the decision. So yeah, okay. But what about this, that, and that? Now they understand you understand. There's sensitivity. I understand why you made that decision, even though I don't agree. That's huge. Isn't it? So that's what they found. That's also statistics. That a person who is too independent, wants to push his own agenda, will ruin the group. People who are sensitive to the needs and feelings of others, they will create an incredibly dynamic group, a successful group. So I think it's obvious in a relationship if it evolves to the point of constant criticism and shaming, pretty much the relationship is finished, or it's on its way out. But again, I would say if you find yourself in a situation like that, look to yourself. Well, why am I doing that? Because often it's a personal dissatisfaction. It's a dissatisfaction with myself, and sometimes it's a seeing of my own faults in my partner, and it bothers me. Or it's my partner pointing out objectively my faults, and I don't like it. Nobody likes it. But if the fault's objective, it's a reality. So I've observed in my own relationships that my consciousness has so much to do with how the relationships go. Sometimes I just don't like somebody. I don't like the way they think. It's just like, you know, that person, they say something and it just it's upsetting. Why do you have to say that? What's wrong with you? I think those are all tests for us. It's just another person, and it's how they do things. And maybe they're acting immaturely. Maybe it's obvious they're acting immaturely. So they can cause me to act immaturely also, right? It was funny, we were having a discussion, and it was getting very heated, and one person made a statement, and the other person said, don't be emotional. But it was the person who said that was being emotional. And I was seeing that, and I was thinking, I really don't like dealing with people who are not emotionally mature, because it degrades the group. So it triggered me, and I was like, I don't, so whenever that person says something, there's a tendency for me to just not listen, because I think, well, you're just like a baby, so why should I listen to you? But I understand that's my problem, right? So it's an opportunity when we're getting triggered or we're being critical to ask ourselves, what's going on with me? Rather than say, well, you're just immature. It takes, takes some bravery to do that and some introspection. But if we can all do that, it's going to be helpful. What I think communities should do is I think they should have courses on empathic listening and other kinds of courses where you can learn these things, and then everybody's on the same page, because everything will go up and it'll be easier to get along. And if somebody can't do it, doesn't want to do it, probably they won't fit in. But if everybody's bad, then everybody fits in, and everything's dysfunctional, and everybody just, kind of ends up, one side or the other. So this is what I wanted to bring this to, because I think this is extremely important. We can sometimes come to a position in our communities where we're acting in ways which are more dysfunctional than your average company. And if you work in a corporate environment in a healthy company, you probably experience that. And a lot of these companies, they have principles, and these have high principles, solid principles. And so I think one mistake we make is that this is what you call spiritual bypassing. That you think that automatically by practicing Krishna consciousness, everything else will be good materially. And if we look at our relationships, it proves that not to be so true in every case, right? Because if that were true, we would have amazing relationships, amazing marriages, amazing kids, healthy, amazing kids, across the board, 100% or 98%. But we don't, because we're human and we're conditioned souls. And so I think that's important to recognize. And I think that a lot of times we don't put emphasis on developing training, on having training, or developing the qualities we need to get along better, because we think we're devotees. So we don't have to, we're devotees. This has just come. It's kind of surprising to think that way when we see it doesn't always come. Why would you think that way? It's kind of like an illusion. That's what's called spiritual bypassing. You don't work on resolving certain problems because you have a spiritual process, and you think it resolves it even when it doesn't resolve it, even when you can see it doesn't resolve it. Now, here's the bad news. This is scary. You ready for the bad news? Sometimes the spiritual process creates problems. Self-righteousness, it can create self-righteousness. Pride, control, authority. I'm in charge, I'm the senior devotee, you do what I say. I could be wrong about something, I could be wrong about many things, but I could insist as the senior, you have to do what I say. And I must be right because I've been a devotee longer than you. But I may not be dealing with spiritual things. There might be material things which you have more experience with, or more education with, or you're just intuitively better. by nature. So we run into problems, thinking because of position or seniority, I'm right when I'm not. And so we could misuse authority. There's a sense of entitlement that sometimes comes. I'm senior, so just I got to do what I say. I'm the man, I'm right. I'm the senior, I'm right. The bypassing, I've done this longer, so I can't be bad because I chant good rounds. Things like that. Have you seen that before? How could I be wrong? I chant good rounds. I've gone to Mangalartik every day this year. You haven't, so why should I listen to you? What do you know? Well, Prabhu, I have 3 PhDs and this and that. Yeah, but you don't go to Mangalartik, so I'm not going to listen to you. I learned something. I studied a bit of what my wife studied. And I taught the course that she teaches. Maybe not as well as she teaches it, but I've taught it. And one thing that really captured my attention in terms of sensitivity is that sometimes your partner is telling you something without telling you. I'll give an example. Your partner says, I'm so tired and I have so much laundry to fold. And she's not telling you to fold the laundry. She's just, talking out loud. I'm so tired, I got all this laundry. But a good husband will just come and say, just go to sleep, I'll fold it. Because he doesn't hear like, well, tough luck, you're tired, I have to work when I'm tired, so just shut up and fold the laundry. That's the way life is. Life is tough, Like it, go back to God. But so a sensitive person hears what someone's saying, and the person themselves doesn't even know that they're saying it. So that's really, really important. Not just for marriages, but for anything, to be able to hear what's not being said when it's being said. Or like we were saying, you're always coming home late. That means that she's just saying, I want to spend more time with you, but you may not hear it. Would you, your husband or wife says, would you like to do this? And you say, would you like to go on a walk? And you say, no, I don't like to walk. It's a bid to do something together. If you want to ride a bike, I'll do it. But, she says, well, I don't like riding bikes. So you can pick up on a lot of things if you're aware of this. Because you want to, the whole game is do things together to enhance the relationship, whether it's in marriage or whether it's amongst the devotees. And the better we have experience, in the corporate world they have experience, the better people like one another, the better they work. The happier people are with one another, the better they work. In fact, I did research. This is so interesting. And I have experience of this. I didn't need to read the research because I've had so much experience of this. But the research says if you take 5 very qualified people who don't get along and take 5 less qualified people who get along very well, the less qualified people will outperform the more qualified people because of that synergy. The energy of the more qualified people, a lot of it will go into disagreement and so forth. Have you had that experience? Yeah. I mean, look at how ISKCON started. Like, lots of people who weren't experienced but very inspired. And very inspired to work together. And we all lived together. It was like a family. We were so happy. And people wanted to join us because we were happy. There's 2 other things that we have to take into consideration. When we get along well, it's attractive to people. Everybody wants to be part of something where people have good relationships. When you have good relationships at home, it serves the children. It creates the proper environment for them to grow in a healthy way. If they grow up in a disruptive home, then they're disrupted. Husband and wife fighting all the time, it's a bad example for the kids. So both in the family and the temple, when people see us getting along, it says Krishna consciousness is wonderful, it works, these are nice people, I want to be part of it. And so that's extremely important. We as devotees, we're really good teachers. You go online, there's like so many devotees, so many pandits, so many teachers. We need to be better at living what we teach than teaching. That's a much bigger challenge. Because teaching's easy. I gave a class on humility. Not a class, it was a seminar. That was easy. Being humble is a whole different thing. Giving the seminar was easy. But when someone says, you did that wrong, and I say, excuse me, sorry, thank you for the feedback. That's a lot more difficult than giving the class, right? So I think this is another problem that maybe we need to focus more on behavior. We tend to focus on external accomplishments, which you can, what's the word? Measure. Which you can measure. How many books, temples, money, devotees, bhakti rituals, you can measure it all. We need to do measurements, other kinds of measurements in terms of manifesting Vaishnava qualities, because that will be much more important in the long run. And that's what we want to hand over to the next generation. And that's what we want to teach our children, and we want to teach all the people who will come to Krishna consciousness in the future. And whether you like it or not, you're teaching all the time. One writer said, your children don't listen to what you say as much as they listen to what you do. So I think that's true in our outreach. People will listen more to what we do. If you give a class on humility and then later on they see you arguing with somebody, it's not going to work, right? Or they join the Sangha and they find out, well, you're not so humble. It's confusing. So, those are some initial thoughts. It's now 7:30, so we're going to try to end by 8 for once. Actually end on time. I don't know if that's possible. Depends on your questions, but at least we have a half an hour now for discussion. I could speak more, of course, but I think you must have questions. So yes.
Thank you so much. So many things were like straight in our living room most of the times. So I actually don't like to walk. And I have been always asked, like, let's go for a walk. I don't like it, like, really, honestly. And I don't like it, I don't want it. I don't know why. I don't understand why I've been asked all the time, again and again and again.
It's not about the walking, it's about the relationship. My daughter does that with me all the time. You want to go do this? She says, no, I don't like doing that. And I think, it's not about doing it, it's about being together. It's about spending time together, And my daughter knows, because I say, if we walk, we talk. And I once read this girl, she said, everything I learned, the most important things I learned for the walks I had with my father, because we just talked. So it's not about walking or riding or whatever, it's about being together. Just an excuse to be together. Like once Radhanath Swami they were talking with one temple president, I believe in Potomac, D.C. And they were talking about having different programs. And he said, you don't need to have a reason to have a program, or a festival. You can just make it up. Just make up your festival. You just need reasons to bring devotees together, right? Because the importance of Sangha is such that we need it as much as possible. So, some temples actually make up festivals just for their, like, let's have a, whatever. This is the day we install the deity, so every year there's a festival. Why not? So what's a festival mean? Kirtan, class, prasadam, and association. So that's kind of the principle, just association. Right? Just an excuse to associate somehow or other. One of the things that I have found in my own marriage is that because of my schedule, especially the last few years, not COVID, but before that, I've been traveling more, right? So I have to balance that traveling, or I spend more time alone with my wife somewhere, like just go somewhere alone. Because it's out of balance, and whenever it gets out of balance, there's a problem. And then she starts feeling it, and I can just sense, okay, it's time, we've gone too far. And that happens with a lot of couples, where they get to a point where they don't spend much time together, and the relationship cannot function without time. And time doesn't just mean service, it means time in different environments, and that's part of how relationships work. And not just with husband and wife, but with anybody. You're working with other devotees, so you're associating in certain environments, but other environments would nurture the relationship also that are different, maybe not work environments, other things. So, in South America, they're very much like this. In China, they just like to go out and have fun. So all devotees go mountain climbing or whatever. That's just their nature. And so it's more family oriented. So that's nice. Is that okay? You're going to start walking? You know the story about Prabhupada walking, why he walks every day? How many of you know that story? So, in America, there's a weekend comes at the end of May. It's called Memorial Weekend. It's to remember the veterans of war, and so you get Monday off. And what happens in New York City is just surrounded by country. And New York City is just condensed. It's like Manhattan's like 20 million people, and it's not that big. So during these holidays, New York is empty. People just leave. They all go on vacation outside. And it's all forest outside. And Prabhupada had a stroke that weekend, and they couldn't, all the doctors were gone. And they were calling and calling. In those days, doctors would come to your home, and they finally found a doctor, and I think he was kind of drunk. And anyway, he was a real character. And Prabhupada just had a stroke, right? And they said, so what's wrong? And he said, the old man prays too much. He prays too much. He needs to get out and walk. He's just sitting there all day. After a stroke, that's all he said. That was his diagnosis. You could die from a stroke or be paralyzed, right? The old man prays too much. And Prabhupada heard the doctor that was in the next room. And they all thought, this guy is nuts. Just had a stroke and he's just telling him to go walk, like that's it. And Prabhupada said, Krishna has spoken through him. And every day Prabhupada walked after that. So, walking is in our line. It's in our disciplic line now. Anyway, yes?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you for your appreciation. Maharaj, can you explain a little bit more when you say, don't ever underestimate the power of appreciation? Because in my work, I often get a lot of kind of appreciation, but sometimes it's difficult to cope with it.
I mean, you get appreciated.
Yes.
And you don't like it.
I like it, but sometimes it's just too much. When they get Vilakshmi, I bring it to the temple. But they send flowers.
Oh,
they
okay.
give things, gifts.
Yeah, well, I can tell you how I see it. Well, number one, they're serving a devotee. So to not accept it would be wrong, right? You're talking about non-devotees? Or yeah. Yeah, so number one, they're serving a devotee. So that's helpful for them. In general, when someone appreciates it, you should see it like a gift. So let's say you give me a gift, like you buy me some socks, and I get them, and I open it up, and I say, oh, socks. Okay,
Yeah.
and I just give them back to you. Give them to someone else, I don't need socks. You're like completely upset now. Maybe you'll go home crying, my life is destroyed, he didn't accept my gift. So every appreciation, every gift should be accepted gracefully from anyone who gives it, because they're giving it to you. And we accept it on behalf of Guru and Krishna. And we generally become humbled by appreciation. And we also think, when we're being appreciated, that I must live up to this appreciation. I always find appreciation humbles me, because I think, okay, they're seeing me this way, but I don't think I'm this way, but now I'm obliged to act this way. I must act this way because this is how they think I am. So it's quite humbling. If you feel you're not what people are saying, it's quite humbling. And so that was Bhaktisiddhanta's advice. However people glorify you, you should think they're telling you how to act. Oh, Mina, you're so generous. And you're thinking, okay, I have to be generous. Mina, you're so kind. Okay, I have to be kind. That's the humble way to accept it. But don't ever reject it. That wouldn't be proper. When you become a senior devotee, then people will want to serve you. And it's awkward, but you will accept it on behalf of Prabhupada. And you say, okay, Prabhupada, I will offer it to you. So that service goes to you. If somebody helps me do service, that's good for them. And I'm not going to take that service for myself, for my sense gratification. So it's never about us. And it's stated in our scriptures that to glorify a devotee, it's very good for the person who glorifies the devotee. So we don't want to deny them the benefit of being able to glorify a devotee, do we? Oh, Mina, you're so good. Don't say it. Take it back. I don't like it. So we may not like it, but it's our duty to accept it as their service, right? I mean, you're not a guru. Gurus get a lot more. So you're getting a little taste, but gurus get a lot more. And the more disciples they have, the more they get. And they really have to. They're really in that mood of, this is actually glorification of Prabhupada. Because whatever you see, they will think whatever you see in me is just due to Prabhupada and his mercy. So they'll never really take it personally. Hare Krishna. Yes?
Thank you for your class. There are so many nice points, and I therefore have two questions.
Okay.
So not one. So first one is sometimes in the relationship it can be like if we're going through some hardships, it's easy for us to appreciate the other person who's supporting us.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we're not going through any hardships, it can feel a little bit for the other person that, okay, so now they're feeling okay, they don't need me anymore, like they don't appreciate me anymore. And it also, I can see sometimes, not here, I don't know this community that well, but like we're in the temple where I served. I used to see sometimes in the devotee community as well that while you are doing a lot of service, like while you are an active
They like
part,
you, they
yeah,
appreciate you.
yeah, and then once a devotee cannot do that service anymore due to various reasons, or like if they get old, we don't have that kind of appreciation for them, or like we don't care about them that well anymore. So like, how do we deal with that?
Both of those are internal issues. It's as you know, it's very awkward, even sometimes bordering dangerous, to depend on appreciation from other people. But it's very human to want it, especially from your husband or wife, right? And I can just tell you what I know about it being married, is that there's lots of unexpressed appreciation. Like, because, sometimes I'll think, my wife, this is what I find, if somebody's good at something consistently, people don't always give appreciation. It's kind of like, it's just, yeah, you're good. Like, why do I have to say anything? It's like, we all know you're good. But the person doesn't know that everybody thinks that way. So sometimes my wife would say, I'd say, I'll do something, I go, do you think like what I did was good? And she'll say like, oh yeah, it's amazing what you're doing. So I didn't know because you never said. She goes, well, I don't tell you, but I tell everybody else. It's like, I think a lot of times we don't tell people who are good at something. It's just accepted. So in that case, what you could do, if you feel like, well, if I need that appreciation, you would just have to tell him, can you just acknowledge, like, when I do this, how you want to be appreciated? Because you know the different love languages. Some people want appreciation verbally, some want it physically, some want it by demonstrating it, by giving something. There may be other love languages, I can't remember, but like, someone will say, you never show me you love me. You say, well, I always tell you that. Yeah, you always tell me, but you never give me anything. Or vice versa. You never show me that, but I give you so many things. Yeah, but you never tell me. So you can communicate that to that person and just say, I'm working so hard and I don't know if you appreciate it because you don't tell me. You don't show me, you could show me this way.
So if I want to show the other person that I appreciate them, I should try to figure out their
Ask them. What's your love language? Gifts, service, words, hugs. I don't know. You can look it up. Maybe it's only 3. I think there's 5. I just can't. There's 5?
Yeah.
What are the other 2?
I don't know.
acts of service, I think.
Someone could look it up online. 5 love languages.
I think it's time spent together, acts of service, words of appreciation, gifts, and something else.
Yeah, time spent together and acts of service, that would be the other 2. Yeah, he'll find out.
Physical touch.
Touch.
Quality time.
Time, okay.
Gifts.
Gifts.
Acts of service.
And words.
Words of affirmation.
Yeah, so we got the 5. And different people process affection in one of those 5 ways, maybe more than one of those 5. So they sometimes will not think you're showing appreciation because you show it in a way that's not their love language. Strange, right?
Mhm.
But I just bought you a house and a car. Yeah, because you never told me you love me. Okay, I could have saved a lot of money then. Yes.
What if you talk about your love language and the other doesn't anticipate on that?
You have a problem. The other one is saying, the other one might say, well, why do you need me to do that? I don't do that. But that's the whole point I was talking about. You may not understand, or they may not understand, but that doesn't matter. It's just, this is, it's like, I don't like beets. I don't know why I don't like beets. I was born that way. I don't like them. And my wife loves them. And my wife, she doesn't like cinnamon, or she doesn't like licorice, and I like licorice. And she, if I say the word licorice, she'll just go, and I'll do that with beets. So it doesn't have to make sense. It's just a fact. I cooked you beets today because you should like beets because I like beets. And there's something wrong with you. You don't like beets. So here they are. Like them. You don't like them? Tough luck. Something wrong with you. You can't do that. So, you had a second question?
Yeah, it's also more to do with the community I come from. It's
Did I fully answer the first one? Like we neglect people when they're not.
when they're not able to serve as much.
Yeah, I think it's part of a paradigm of valuing. What was the word? Measurable results. Yeah, that's it. Is that the corporate term? Measurable results. Valuing measurable results. I mean, it's hard not to value measurable results, but I think that's the Devotee Care Initiative was meant to bridge that gap there when someone can't perform like they used to. We had a discussion about this, and one devotee said that, and I think this way also, if you look at a family and how they take care of everyone in the family, they would never say, well, you have some issues and you can't work, so, we'll just got to move out of the house. Nobody would say that. So if we look at our temples a little more like how a family would function, we'd probably do better. Because he was saying that the temples he's familiar with do not function like families. Like we wouldn't do these things in our family. Some of the things we do in a temple, we would not do it in our family. But maybe there's circumstances where we can't afford it or whatever. But I think it's generally a good paradigm. It's a family. People have come to Prabhupada's family. We have to take care of them as best we can. Help them as best we can. It'll be better if we can. Sometimes there's limitations, financial or otherwise. But you have this problem also. If that were a senior devotee, especially a guru, that would never happen, right? So Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was very concerned about that certain devotees will be taken care of because of their position, and certain devotees won't. And he felt that is very unfair. And we have to level the playing field, so to speak. I feel that way all the time. But that's kind of the paradigm, Respect goes up, and I have disciples that need help sometimes financially, but they will never take money from you. Or maybe one would, but I say, look I'll just help you. You need to get to India. You pay me back or not? No, I can't take money from you. But if I have it, I wouldn't give it if I didn't have it. But if somehow I have it and I would help them, why not? A lot of gurus do that. But it's just awkward, But I don't think it's awkward from my perspective. Did that answer the question or make it worse?
No.
I did make it worse.
You know, sometimes when I answer a question, it makes it worse because I say, well, this is how it should be, and then everybody asks the question, it's thinking it's never going to be that way there, or it's the opposite, so it kind of makes it worse.
I'm just thinking, I have a friend who is right now in a situation. She was a head pujari in the temple and had a lot of other different services. She's quite young, but recently she had quite heavy health problems, so she had to resign from all the services. And I was on call with her, and she's saying, now I don't do service, and no one is even calling me to ask how I am, or Mataji, are you still a devotee, like that. So I'm just thinking, how can I be there for her in this kind of situation?
Yeah, so I think this is a good discussion. What we're going to experience is that we have certain personal values and we would like to see things a certain way, and they're not going that way. So within our sphere of influence and power, we do what we can, like you're saying, like you could be the one, maybe the only one, who really pays attention to that person, but that could mean the world to her. And so it should happen in the temple. It's not, so you say, I'll do it. I'll invite her to come stay with us in the guest room you don't have in your house. There's something like that, too. I mean, I do that all the time. I'll find somebody who's just like, they've been mistreated or something, and I'll just do what I can to help them and make sure that they're okay, or get them somewhere where they're taken care of and they have friends. But sometimes that's all you can do. And so what I call that my ISKCON. So my ISKCON is the ISKCON that I have influence over. So in my ISKCON, those things don't happen as far as possible. I try to avoid them. So if I see them, then I think, oh, in my ISKCON, this shouldn't happen. So you can develop your own ISKCON. And then you can do what's needed in your ISKCON. Devotee was just talking to me about some things that go on internationally in ISKCON that she disagrees with. And I said, well, those don't go on in my ISKCON. I'm not part of that ISKCON. Because I have influence, that would never go on. So that's the only way that I can be happy and function, at least doing my best to create the ISKCON that's my ISKCON, even though it may be within the ISKCON that's not my ISKCON. But I create my ISKCON as best I can. So that would be my suggestion for all of us. Create your ISKCON everywhere. You have influence. Sometimes you'll create some friction somewhere because you might be going against the grain. But if you're convinced that you're doing the right thing, I've never had a problem doing the right thing. I mean, temporarily maybe, but not permanently. Misunderstandings maybe, but if it's right, it's right. If it's good, it's good. And sometimes we have to stand up for what we believe, even if others maybe don't understand it. But you want to hear something funny? If you study the history of ISKCON, there's some funny things that happen. There's this saying, an idea whose time has come. Like if someone comes up with an idea and everybody's, yes! It's the idea whose time has come. It's like, if you brought that idea up last year, fall on deaf ears. So there are ideas that used to come up in like the 1980s in ISKCON that were seen to be ideas of unadvanced devotees who were just materially attached. Those same ideas, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, would become like the flagship ideas of the GBC. So now we're instituting this program, and I just laugh at them. That program was shot down, and all the people who brought that up were shot down as fools. And now this is, the GBC's rolling this out. It's all over their website. This is going to change this thing. So if you know something is right, then then go with it and do it. It'll eventually rise to the surface in the sky, even if people push it down. That's my experience. And if it's right, it's right, and just do it. Don't doubt yourself because somebody doesn't understand it. Is that okay? Who's next? Yes.
So probably sometimes what happens that when we come to Krishna consciousness in the initial period, we get lot of love, lot of encouragement from the others, and that is really necessary.
This is before you joined the temple, or after? Did you live in the temple? You ever lived?
I did for
Brahmacharya.
2 years.
So you're saying you got a lot of love before you moved in, or those first 2 years?
No, I was not a Brahmacharya. I was in the VTA, in the Radha Gopinath temple. But yeah, but I was a part of youth center and also the temple training programs.
Okay.
Like that. So my question is more in generic way. So initially we get lot of love, and then in our heart we are grateful that some person has invested so much energy in us, time in us, and now it's because after some time, like we should not always take, we should able to give it to others also, and we try to facilitate the same facilities which we received in the earlier period of time. So sometimes in a community, like one person comes in such a situation where he is expected that he should actually give to others, he should able to he should assist others, he should help them to inspire more, and in that. But in that scenario, sometimes it happens that okay, that person may be liking some service, so this is in the context of service, or in some service which he really enjoys, which he likes, which he loves to do. But now and on the another front, the thought comes that okay, but I have done this, and there are other who also wants to do that, so maybe I should give chance to others, because we don't want to and that is also good for us also. So then sometimes no one speaks us, but we from our heart only we give chance to others, and we try to facilitate them more, and all that.
And then what happens?
And then so externally, like we think it's really good,
And you build up resentment inside.
And in the heart we get that feeling that it's good that others are doing, but I also want to do that. So shall we transcend this thought, or how?
Should you transcend it? If you can, but if you can't, then you have to be realistic about what you can do. So this is an example of trying to come to a higher level than you're qualified to come to, and it backfires. And so it's quite common. It's like, this is the right thing and I should do it, but I can't. And so by doing it, I become resentful and build up this tamasic stuff inside me. And so it backfires, and it makes you worse in the name of trying to be better. So you can only bite off as much as you can chew. If you try to bite off too much, then indigestion, right? So that's a reality. Unfortunately, it's a reality. I wish I could be here. And I know I should be here, and it would be good I should be here, and I'm encouraged to be here, and I'd like to be here, but I can't. And I have to understand that if I try to be here, there's going to be a problem. Let's use a very practical example. You're trying to be a brahmachari, but you're not actually a brahmachari. So then you're going crazy after a while. Isn't it? Then you're becoming now more attracted to women than you would have been if you just got married 10 years ago. Right? But what to speak of trying to be a sannyasi? So it's this dynamic between knowing what I should do and being realistic about what I can do. And it's, you have to make peace with it. It's like, I'd love to do this. But the reality is I can't, and I just have to acknowledge that. It's not going to be the best thing. I can do this. I use the word sustainability, and I think this is such an important word. Do what you can do that's sustainable, because that's how you'll steadily advance. If it's not sustainable, you'll be up and down all the time. Go for perfection, get discouraged, give up, stop chanting, Graham says get back up, then go shoot for perfection again, crash. You don't want that. So better strive for what you can is sustainable. We'll have a much better movement if everyone is doing what's sustainable. It'll be very stable. And that's how you advance. And, it's like, whatever, this is who I am. I can't artificially be someone I'm not. I wish I could be like this Prabhu or this Mataji, but I'm not. So I have to acknowledge that. Does that make sense? Or?
Yes.
And if you're a manager, you should be able to see that. So you don't push people beyond what they can sustain in the long run. It's unhealthy.
But yes, that's it help. But like if you like to do something, then shall we try to transcend that thought that let me try to do some other, or we just try to find a ways by which without hampering others we can able to
Generally, it's good if you like to do something. Because then you'll like to do it for Krishna. And if you're living as a brahmachari in a temple, you kind of don't always have a choice. You could say, I like to do this, but they'll say, well, we need you to do this. And that's brahmachari training. But the idea is, okay, you like to do something, whatever it is. You like to manage. So it's good. We need managers. But you won't do it just because you like it. You'll do it for service. But you'll have energy to do it. So even if you like to do it, you still have to do it for Krishna's pleasure. So it's not like I like to do it, so I just do it because I like to do it, and I don't care about Guru and Krishna. That would be wrong. But I like to sing and I like to teach, right? But I'm always thinking about what to teach that would be best for the devotees, not necessarily what I like to teach. But I think, okay, this is what devotees need to hear. And sometimes I have to read all these books that normally I wouldn't read. I'm reading a book now. I'm reading and I'm like, why am I reading this book? I could be reading Bhagavatam. It's all about why and how men abuse women. It's like, why am I reading that book? Because it's such a problem. It's like 1 out of 3 women in America is abused by their husbands. And it's like such a big problem. And so I need to address it, so I read it. So I'm doing what I like to do, but teaching something I don't necessarily like to teach. So there will always be that sacrifice within this service. You like to cook, okay, cook for John Masvi. You're in the kitchen like 24 hours. Oh, my feet are killing me, my legs are killing me, my head's killing me, everything in between my head and my feet is killing me. I got to sleep for 3 days after Prabhupada's discipline. So there'll be tons of austerity even doing what you like to do. But doing what you like to do will inspire you. If you're very, very pure, you can do anything and be inspired, right? We don't want a society of uninspired people doing what they don't like to do. We want a society of inspired people. Better a society of inspired people doing what they want to do than dutiful people, miserable and depressed, doing what they don't like to do. Right? It's the same point. We're dealing with the reality. This is the reality. I'm inspired to do this. I'm fired up. And it keeps me out of trouble. And ultimately, that service is for our benefit. Krishna doesn't need any of it. But he engages us. He lets us do service. So you're inspired? That's great. Some devotees, are just like, they're so absorbed in what they're doing because they love it. But they're doing it purely. It's not sense gratification. I like to chant, so I'm not chanting, karmi songs. from chanting kirtan, right? So that's good. You like kirtan? We all like kirtan. I can do kirtan? Okay, good. Why not do it? You use it for Krishna. You can make money? Why not? Go for it. You make tons of money, you help build a temple, you live nicely, you don't live lavishly, you don't drive a Ferrari, you live in a 20,000 square foot, that would be like divided by 3, 7,000 square meter house. No. Then it's been like, yeah, I like to make money, that's what I think about, I love doing it. And we're going to build a temple, I love it, Why not? I see your resource of your skill and ability as money. So if you had a lot of money, it would be foolish to say, yeah, I have all this money, but I'll just let it sit in the bank. I don't think we should use it for Krishna. Why would you say that? So you have a resource, an intelligence, ability. No, I'm not going to do it for Krishna. He gave that to you, so he wants you to use it. It's kind of an artificial renunciation in the name of being surrendered, if you can use it. And especially if you're grihastha, grihastha means independent. Now, if the temple president calls you and says, I need you to do this, it's really important. You could say, I'm not inspired to do it. You say, yeah, but we just need it this weekend. Then you would say, of course I'll do it. Or we just need it, for the next 2 weeks. If it's your whole life and you hate to do it, it's not going to work for your spiritual life, unless you're very advanced. I used to do book distribution, but I got to a point where it was really hard. I swear this is true. If someone said Sankirtan, I would start yawning immediately. Seriously. Time for Sankirtan. My whole body would just go to sleep. But I can't do it. I don't want to do it. But if someone said, lead a kirtan and give a class, I was like, yeah, okay. Why not? Take advantage of it, right? And I did Sankirtan for years, so I did the yajna. I did it, paid the price. That was good. And Krishna's now letting me do something that I can sustain. When I did other services that weren't inspiring, I couldn't sustain them. I didn't sustain them. When I started teaching, it was sustainable. It's my nature. I never wavered. I've been doing it for 20, 25 years. Nothing's going to shake it. It's my nature. I'm inspired. Hare Krishna. Yes.
So, thank you, Maharaj.
Jonathan, sorry. Can we serve prasadam and take?
Yeah, serve prasadam.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? Or?
I'll just start my plate.
Yeah, you can ask questions and
Everybody sits here.
you'll serve prasadam and then we'll continue. I guess we could go all night with questions, right? Okay. Okay.
So, thanks for the beautiful class, Mark. And for satsanga. I was wondering, especially in the last point that you made, spontaneously I came to the question, so what is the benchmark you've given to yourself in your life to draw the line between consciously becoming aware of one's own nature and caprice? So, if you understand the question.
Caprice?
Yeah, so, or...
What do you mean by that? Whimsical?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And being whimsical.
What do you do well? What do you like to do? What's sustainable? What you could do your whole life? You could do it every day. You wouldn't do it. What have you always been good at? What comes easy to you? That's your nature. What did you do when you were a kid? What do you like to do? That's your nature. Whimsical just means in the moment I feel like this. But sustainability is really important. It's not bad to do different kinds of services to see what you like. But at some point you should find, you say, I want to try everything because I'm searching for what really inspires me. So the idea is what eventually will inspire you will occupy your mind. And it will, if you depend on inspiration from others, it's not good. Really, the greatest inspiration will come from you when you connect with whatever that is. So sometimes we can ask questions like that, like what? What is that I could do like all day and never get burned out? What would it be? How could I use that in service? Sometimes it's not so easy. Call your mother and ask her, what did I do as a kid? What did I like? Oh, you did this all day. You're reading books on, engineering, or studying languages, or all you did is play instruments, or spent the whole day in the library. So that helps. Because Prabhupada often said, doesn't matter what service you do, it just matters that you do service. Do something to engage the mind and senses, otherwise it will be engaged in material activity. That's a big spoon. Wow, look at that. The biggest plastic spoon I've ever seen. This is Bhima's spoon, right? I think I have a questionnaire on my website that helps you. Finding your Dharma and Prabhupada's mission. Anyway, go to my website, mahatmadas.com. I think there's like a questionnaire there. And it's a questionnaire that was designed to help people kind of hone in. And you get a lot of the same answers to the questions, so that's good because it starts to show patterns. I can tell you my own search. In my life, it was either, at a certain point, it was either music or teaching. And I figured out a way to combine both, but I was better at teaching. And I thought, it's just kind of an obvious choice. But I'm a bit obsessed with music also. And I have a recording studio. I couldn't just back burner it entirely. And so these things, I think, a lot of times they just take acknowledging. Sometimes we're like afraid to acknowledge for whatever reason. I don't know. It could be different for different people. Maybe you don't want to admit, I'm a this and I'm not a that. Or your parents wanted you to be a this, but you're a that. Or whatever. So there could be social pressure around it as well. Because it's not maybe respected in society. It's trying to be a whatever. Kindergarten teacher. People ask you what you do, and I'm a kindergarten teacher. It's like, you're a man, kindergarten teacher? Maybe there's no prestige to it. Does that help at all? But that questionnaire.
I will definitely look up the questionnaire.
Not sure where on the site it is, but the name of the course was Finding Your Mission in Prabhupada's Service. Something. I told them to put it on my site, so hopefully they did it. You never know.
I will look it up.
You never know if people do what they tell you unless you follow it up. My life is such that I didn't follow it up. We'll find out. And if it's not, if you can't find it, you can write me. You want to ask a question?
I have no questions.
Oh, good. Yes.
Would you like to speak something about the relationship with non-devotees?
Can you say that louder?
Would you like to speak something
Yeah.
on the relationship with non-devotees?
Oh, our relationship with non-devotees. Well, Bhaktivinoda Thakur did something really interesting. He said that, of course, we will associate with many people in the world, but he described association actually takes place when the six loving exchanges. And one of them is when you open your heart. He said that the association, meaning the effect that another person has on you, is when you exchange gifts exchange prasadam, but especially when you open your heart and confidence. And he said the others don't actually constitute association per se. That's when there's a shift in consciousness. So I thought that was interesting. But one thing that's very important for us to know is that Prabhupada said, everyone in the world is conditioned. Even the spiritualists are conditioned by their environment and association. So you create an environment and association based on how you want to be affected, but we'll all be affected by it. So we want our closest relationships to be with devotees, and if we can cultivate relationships with more advanced devotees, it just naturally affects us in a positive way, and vice versa. So it's almost like there's nothing you can do. The association will just act. It's like sun, you get sunburned. It's like that. So the better association you get, the better it will be for you. And if you have other association, you just have to make sure it doesn't have ill effects on you, or you're allowing it to, I don't know, getting too much of it or whatever. Just be careful. Everything affects us. So you can't help being affected. Right?
There was a, and I know you also listened to Namaras. I sort of read between the lines of what you said. There was a discussion with Hari Kirtan a while ago, and he was. Are you familiar with this one?
I heard one with him, but that was a few years ago.
Yeah, he did one recently, the most recent, where he brought up this same line of thinking about conditioning by spiritual masters.
Mm-hmm.
And he also said the same thing about Srila Prabhupada, about how he also was conditioned according to his bringing up time, place, circumstance.
Yeah, to some degree, yeah.
That was very interesting.
Can't avoid being conditioned.
Yeah.
A lot of what happens in spiritual life is you're just creating an environment that's conducive to bhakti. That's part of the practice of sadhana. Too late at night. If you think about bhakti as like a garden, and you're creating an environment for the bhakti creeper to grow. And if you create the right environment, it'll automatically grow. And if you're trying to advance spiritually, but you create the wrong environment, it works against you. Quite simple. The principle in spiritual life is, it's kind of like you have a disease and you monitor. Oh, okay. I surrender. You monitor. Going off my diet today, big time. You know, you have a disease and you're monitoring the disease. Maybe it's diabetes or something. The spiritual life, it's like that. So by your actions and by your association, you kind of monitor your own consciousness, how it's being affected. That will kind of inform what you should do or not do. You try to grow your creeper, it's the wrong weather, the wrong soil. obviously not going to work.
The condition is in, suppose, in your own family. How do you do that?
You have to live with it. You'll have to monitor your temperature.
Yeah.
I have a joke for that. I bless you in your next life. You'll be born in America, and you'll have no extended family in America, so you don't have to worry about that. Your parents will kick you out of the house when you're 20 years old. Right. Still filming? Can watch me eat if they want. You can watch me eat when I'm not supposed to eat.
Compliments to cooks. It's delicious.
His Grace Mahatma Prabhu ki.
Yeah.